August 3rd, 1492, 8 a.m., port of Palos de Moguer, Spain. 3 ships creak against the tide. The harbor smells of salt, sweat, and fear. On the deck of the Santa Maria, a man in his 40s stares west toward an invisible horizon. His name is Christopher Columbus. But the story history usually tells misses the point. The greatest health crisis of the 15th century didn't start with what Columbus found. It started with what he carried, invisibly, unknowingly, on those 3 ships. A microscopic weapon more devastating than any sword. A plague that would kill millions and reshape the human story forever. The patterns of how societies respond to these crises, who adapts, who denies, and who survives, are timeless. And what happened in 1492 will change how you see the world today. Columbus sailed with 90 men to find a new route to the East Indies. His cargo held food, weapons, trade goods, and passengers no one could see. Smallpox, measles, typhus, influenza, diseases that had ravaged Europe for centuries. But for the indigenous peoples of the Americas, the Taino, the Aztec, the Inca, these pathogens were entirely new. The greatest weapon of conquest wasn't steel, it was biology.
The historian Alfred Crosby called it the Columbian Exchange. Tomatoes and potatoes went east. Horses and cattle went west. But the exchange wasn't equal. What the indigenous peoples received was death. On October 12, 1492, Columbus landed in the Bahamas. The Taino people greeted him with hospitality. Columbus wrote in his journal, "They said, 'Come and see the men who arrived from the sky.'" By 1493, he established a settlement on Hispaniola. By 1519, just 27 years later, the island's indigenous population was virtually extinct. How many died? Estimates range from 60,000 to 8 million. A recent discovery in Spanish archives found a report from Columbus himself. In it, he mentions viruelas, the Spanish word for smallpox, arriving as early as 1493. This was the first pandemic of the New World. Why were they so vulnerable? They faced a virgin soil epidemic. A population with no prior exposure to a pathogen has no immunity. Think of COVID-19 in early 2020. Now imagine that, but with a dozen new diseases at once. Their immune systems were defenseless. The Taino didn't just die from infection. They died from hemorrhagic smallpox, from secondary infections like pneumonia, from starvation because they were too sick to farm, and from sheer despair in the face of inexplicable death. By 1519, Hispaniola was a graveyard. The Spaniards moved west, toward Mexico. In 1519, Hernán Cortés marched on the Aztec capital, Tenochtitlan, a city of 200,000, larger than any in Europe.
The Aztecs drove him out, but a year later, Cortés returned with his invisible ally, smallpox. An Aztec chronicler wrote, "A great sickness spread over the people. Some it covered with pustules, everywhere. They could not walk. They could only lie in their beds. Many died of hunger. There was no one to care for the sick." Tenochtitlan fell not to Spanish swords, but to Spanish germs. Disease was the shock troop of conquest. Mexico's population fell by 97%, Peru's 93%. Across the hemisphere, over 50 million indigenous people died by 1650. For perspective, the Black Death killed 50 million globally. The Columbian Exchange may have been the deadliest pandemic in human history. But here is the final, ironic twist. Columbus himself, the man who unleashed this plague, suffered his own mysterious illness. During his second voyage, he fell gravely ill, losing his sight, memory, and all his other senses for 5 months. By 1498, he was seized by severe pains, fever, and blurred vision. Theories range from reactive arthritis to syphilis, a disease some historians believe his crew brought back from the New World to Europe. The man who connected 2 worlds became a symbol of their mutual suffering. The story of 1492 isn't just history. It's a chilling lesson in how invisible threats can bring empires to their knees, and how our survival depends on seeing the enemy we can't.
Remember, if you ever need to sell your house fast, as it is condition anywhere in the U.S., either to stop foreclosure, avoid county tax auction, unwanted property, or too many repairs, go to borracina.com/DHHA or call them at 877-658-8303 for no obligation cash offer and get a relief under house burden.
Sometime there is a simple way on how to relieve or get a treatment for the problem. Naturally, from an ebook, How to Get Rid of Health Issues Quickly Without Medication. It's the step-by-step guide you can use right from your kitchen to reclaim your health naturally by someone who's been there. If you're tired of being told medication is your only option, this could change everything for you. Your body has an incredible ability to heal itself while you sleep when you give it the right ingredient. That is available at local grocery store, or you can order them online. Visit howtogetridofhealthissues.com to get your step-by-step guide today.
Here's the question that haunts us. Why didn't anyone stop the spread? After 1492, as disease sived through the Americas, why didn't they stop it? The answer isn't in battle plans or treaties. It's in psychology. First, there's what we call invisibility bias. Humans struggle to fear what they cannot see. Smallpox pustules were horribly visible, but the pathogen itself was not. Germ theory was centuries away, so indigenous peoples attributed the sickness to angry gods, to Spanish witchcraft, to some kind of spiritual failure. Sound familiar? During COVID-19, conspiracy theories blamed 5G towers, Bill Gates, and bioweapons. When we can't see the real enemy, we invent one we can. Then there's normalcy bias. This is the psychological glitch where people underestimate a threat simply because it's never happened before. Indigenous peoples had never experienced a true pandemic. Europeans had lived through plagues, but they foolishly assumed they were immune in the New World. Both were catastrophically wrong. Smart people recognize normalcy bias for the trap that it is, and they override it. Finally, authority deference. Indigenous leaders, Spanish conquistadors, and colonial governors all failed to act decisively. They had no precedent, no playbook for this kind of apocalypse. But there was also something more cynical at play. Spain needed labor for its mines and plantations. Quarantines meant lost profits. And for everyone in power, admitting the true scale of the death would mean admitting their own complicity. It was easier to look away.
Smart people learn to question authority when their survival is on the line. So what separates those who survive a crisis from those who don't? What do smart people do? 1. They see the invisible. They recognize threats before they become catastrophes. If indigenous leaders in 1492 had understood germ theory, if they'd quarantined those European ships, history might be entirely different. Today we have early warning systems like the WHO and the CDC. Smart people listen. 2, they adapt quickly. Some indigenous groups survived by fleeing deep into forests, avoiding contact. Others, like the Maya, developed partial immunity over generations. Today, adaptation looks like masking, vaccines, and social distancing. Adaptation is survival. 3, they prioritize community over ego. An Aztec chronicler's account is haunting. Many died of hunger. There was no one to care for the sick. Societies collapse when individuals hoard resources. They survive when they care for the vulnerable. Think of mutual aid networks, vaccine equity, and robust public health. And 4, they remember. Smart people study history. They know that pandemics aren't a fluke. They recur. Smallpox, the plague, the Spanish flu, HIV, Ebola, COVID-19. The question isn't if another pandemic will come, it's when. Return to the beginning. August 3rd, 1492. 3 ships leave Spain. A man stares west. He doesn't know he's carrying death. By the time he returns to Spain in 1493, the die is cast. Within 30 years, the island of Hispaniola is empty. Within 150 years, 50 million are dead. But here's the final truth. The smart survived. Not the strongest, not the richest. The ones who adapted.
the ones who saw the invisible, the ones who cared for each other. Today, we face our own invisible threats: pandemics, climate change, misinformation. Psychology explains that most people will ignore them until it's too late. Don't be most people. See the invisible. Adapt quickly. Prioritize community. Remember history. Because 500 years from now, someone will tell your story. Will it be one of denial or survival?
Remember, your health is your wealth. Take care of it now, so it can take of you later. As daily health habit adjuster, make it simple as
your wish is my command.